Episode 9 is said to have many different twists and turns, as well as surprises in this movie by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 that a lot of people are really curious about are, of course, the various surprises that will be a part of this movie that will make us look at the originals, the prequels, and even The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens in a totally different way by J.J. Abrams. Now, what's really intriguing about all of this is that these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it comes to one of the concept art descriptions, it leads to a major hint and or indicator of Rey being a Kenobi in Star Wars Episode 9. Now, what's really intriguing is that one of which has all to do with the description of Rey on a desert world, where it said that Rey is wearing a black cloak with her hair untied and blowing in the wind. It's described that she is looking out to a binary sunset that indicates that this is the planet of Tatooine. It's described that Rey begins to feel as if someone is watching over her, to where she begins to hear the voice of Obi Wan Kenobi. It's described that Rey has a strong connection to Obi-Wan, that she finds the voice to be very familiar, yet she doesn't know why. The next goes over Rey sitting on a rock in the sand, where she is conversing with Obi-Wan's voice. It's described that eventually Obi-Wan appears in the distance in a faint way in front of Rey, where she is walking in the desert after her speeder breaks down. It's said that the heat is starting to get to Rey where she is sweating, where she eventually sees an obscure view of Obi-Wan's Force Ghost in the distance, similar to when Luke saw Kenobi on Hoth. It's described that Rey finds him to be very familiar, as if she has seen him before at some point in time in the past of her life. So what's really intriguing about all of this is that I want to go over a couple of parts here that are huge hints and or indicators of Rey actually being a descendant of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, mind you, Obi-Wan obviously is not the father of Rey. We've been going over Rey's father in this film. Totally different character. However, like I have always said, I think that Rey's grandparents are going to be the bigger story in, of course, Episode 9, that will be a direct parallel to that of Ben Solo / Kylo Ren, where his grandparents seem to be more important, that of course being Darth Vader and Padme Amidala. So looking at Rey as a character here, first things first, she's on a desert world with a binary sunset in the background. This is obviously the planet of Tatooine without a doubt. The next thing that I do want to go over, though, that really is a big hint of Rey being a descendant of a Kenobi, is of course when Rey begins to feel as if someone is watching over her, to where she begins to hear the voice of Obi-Wan, and it's described that Rey has a strong connection to Obi-Wan Kenobi in this particular scene. So, like I say, there is something bigger to the story here, and there definitely is a lot more to be told than what we already know in The Force Awakens. In The Force Awakens, we got the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi reaching out to Rey, saying, "Rey, these are your first steps." Why would Obi-Wan Kenobi say, "Rey, these are your first steps," as if she is a young child of some kind, pretty much, going into a new world? Now, it could very well be a voice in the future in Episode 9, but by the time Episode 9 comes around, and Rey actually becoming, a Jedi, or going on the path to becoming a Jedi, it's not really necessarily her first step. She's already very powerful, and she already got the lessons by Luke Skywalker, and stuff like that, right? So, moving on, the next thing that really does stick out to me is how, one of which goes over how it's described that eventually Obi-Wan appears in the distance in a faint way of Rey, where she is walking in the desert after her speeder breaks down, and she sees an obscure version of Obi-Wan Kenobi in the distance, where it's described that she finds him to be very familiar, as if she has seen him before at some point in time in her life. Now, like I say, Obi-Wan Kenobi died a very long time ago, well before Rey's birth even. So why would she find that Obi-Wan Kenobi is very familiar? This could very well be something similar to what Leia said to Luke Skywalker about her mother Padme Amidala, where, she somehow remembers her mother, and she only remembers, some little traits of her mother here and there. However, Luke does not. So, this could very well be a big hint that, she is indeed a descendant of Kenobi. Now, like I say, I know that there are a lot of people out there that think that Rey is not going to be a descendant of any of the main characters, which is fine, or that Rey being a descendant of Kenobi is a really odd and just weird idea to throw into a Star Wars film. And I respect everybody's opinion, that's perfectly fine. But in my opinion, I think that Rey being a Kenobi would really be rather poetic, wouldn't it? If you have the descendant of Anakin Skywalker, right, the grandson of Anakin, and the granddaughter of Obi-Wan going up against each other at the very end of Star Wars Episode 9, it would be way too poetic to that of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where you have both bloodlines basically clashing against each other once more. I mean, it's perfect, and it's a great way to wrap the entire Skywalker saga in a respectful way. So, there are your hints, guys, from some of the leaked details here about Obi-Wan and Rey on the planet of Tatooine. Like I say, how Rey is described to have this strong connection to Obi-Wan, as well as she finds his voice and his actual Force Ghost vision to be very familiar, as if she has seen him before at some point in time in the past. So like I say, you know, when we think about Obi Wan Kenobi, there is something more to the story there by JJ in The Force Awakens. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.